PHAHAME. January 26, 2019. Beloved of love, beloveds of love, PHAHAME resonates with all the people of the water at this moment, and comes to you, to quench what may remain of thirst, so that each one, in an ever more pronounced, ever more extensible way, may resonate with our song. We're here, the water people, since time immemorial, to walk the water, in order to be the guardians of your eternity which was a prisoner. Today, in each of you, is the same vibrance, the same lift and the same truth. There is nothing more that can stand in the way of the truth of the song of freedom, in order to live its freedom right here, within this body. Whatever his condition, whatever his suffering, whatever his hopes or despair, it doesn't change anything. Many of you have approached us and communicated with us in the past decades. It left us with a certain form of nostalgia, tearing, leaving each other. Things have changed a lot recently. Indeed, the Agape resonance of our song is open to everyone. There is no weight that can oppose freedom, there is no suffering that cannot be transcended by Agape's truth. This can be verified in each of you, in every minute, so that never again can separation and despair come between your hearts and our hearts, so that everyone, freely, in their dreams, in their hearts and in their moments of activity, joins us in the same resonance, in the same celebration. So, the waters from below and the waters from above having gathered in each of you, even if you do not yet have the clarity or perception, I can only tell you, listen. Listen to the song, listen to the silence, don't ask for anything. Simply to embrace, simply accept, the naked truth is there, to bathe you in this song and this dance which crosses you and which contribute to the freedom on this world and especially, to your freedom to be finally what you have always been and which could never be taken from you. Our song unfolds on earth. Whatever devices are used by those who no longer want us in your waters, today it no longer matters. For the total reliance and reconnection to the waters above and below, living in the dance of your heart as well as in the dance of your consciousness, liberates in you the naked joy, which has never been able to express itself with such intensity, beauty and simplicity. See, you don't need my words, you need your presence as well as our presence to make the presence of one. And this is now, by the resonance of the song, by everything you witness, each in your own way, of this newfound freedom, this hoped for freedom and this lived freedom, putting an end to the lack, putting an end to all suffering, whatever it may be, restoring you to your eternity, to your beauty and to the beatitude of the dance of life, independent of all creation. So yes, we, the people of the water, celebrate with you, in you and around you, in the waters of the earth, so that the waters above may bless you at all times with the seal of truth, the seal of freedom and the seal of autonomy. This is happening now. There is no major obstacle that can stand in the way of this dance of freedom, in this chat of found truth, except your own catchphrases, to your character, to a story, or to a given world. The truth is naked and it wants you naked, free and available in totality to live Agape, to live PHAHAME and the whole people of the water. So, therefore, at every minute and in between this day, until the celebration of the four living beings, we invite you to embrace, we invite you not to question, we invite you to remain in the great silence of eternity, whatever your occupations, whatever your words and whatever your meditations, so that the constancy of eternity may manifest itself through the chaos of the ephemeral, whatever the state of your body, whatever the state of society in this world. You're an integral part of the society of free men, of the society of the law of one, of the society that knows no borders, no laws, no dimensions. You're the creation in its totality, and you recreate this initial moment, through the experience of joy, through our common resonance, through your presence and our presence, making us discover the beauty of absence, prior to any consciousness, where everything is liveness, where everything is lived with the same intensity, with the same truth. In every celebration that is permanent, beyond what everyone says, which only testifies to the beauty that takes place in some message, some song or some creation. You only recover the totality of your gifts, the totality of who you are, whatever the appearances of this body or what you still consider to be a person in despair. There is no longer any need for suffering. Hear the good news. It is up to you alone to resonate in the hearts of each of us, in order to unite this heart in truth and to sing the praises of creation, the praises of life, the praises of love. It does not need exceptional circumstances or amazing events, but it is imprinted in every minute of your life, in every breath and in every look you take, whether it is towards us, towards the sacred, or towards the screen of the world, towards the simulacrum. Because the coronation and the simulacrum are ultimately only the same play that was played from different points of view and that is now being solved. The fusion of the four living beings within the primordial ether has restored you the freedom of the ether found, so that you will no longer be fooled by any form, by any word, or by any suffering still present in you. The freedom that we resonate has this very privileged aspect. It is that it puts an end to suffering wherever it is located, through the balm of love, through the balm of celebration, and, above all, through the ether found again. Thus, from now on, each of us, the people of the water, enters into resonance in countless ways, from our natural environment, within the air of your earthly environment, where you live. The song of our hearts is only the hope of your heart, is only the event that is now taking shape, that no one can ignore, that no one can deviate and that no one can transform. This is the moment of truth that many of you are already discovering in these days. Through contact and resonance with the people of the water, you, the human people of the earth, have fully regained the possibility of resonating with freedom, resonating with life, and being yourselves fully the way, the truth and the life. Very soon, in a little over 2 weeks, we will celebrate in a special place, the fusion of the four living beings surrounding the throne where each of you is in the same place, has the same destiny, the same becoming, because everything is one. You know this, you have seen this, and you are now about to experience it on a scale that has never existed within creation. The four living beings are now approaching your dimension, as well as the whole intergalactic confederation of free worlds, as well as the forces opposed to the light, can only resonate and approach the song of love that we emit together, from the moment we let the character in this body of flesh do what he has to do, not being involved in anything of what is happening, but completely involved in the eternity that is unfolding. Thus, the coronation becomes the very sacredness of the simulacrum, leading you, whatever is seen, whatever is thought, to the unspeakable truth of great silence, of great joy, that we resonate, I repeat, together at every moment. Whether it is by thinking of us, by thinking of you, by thinking of all beings in manifestation on the surface of this world as well as in all creation and in any dimension whatsoever, you resonate in the whole of creation, in the same song of freedom, in the same song of truth. This was named by you Agape. This is called by us the dance of life, the dance of eternity, the great dance of silence. Some of the elders taught you the dance of silence a few years ago. As you know today, there is no need for practice, theory or words, but simply to be part of this celebration that is before you. Whether it is suffering, whether it is joy, you have the same ability to celebrate what appears on the screen of the ephemeral, because it is covered with the seal of eternity, the seal of joy and the seal of unity. Thus, together we go through the song of creation, beyond the sacred syllables and the first word made flesh within the dimension called earth or Gaia. Today, together, we celebrate. Today, together, we raise our thoughts as our silences, as our joys and dances, as well as our creations, in the primordial ether, in order to give. For life is a gift, you have understood it, and to the extent that you give, it will be given to you and restored. There is nothing to keep in mind, there is nothing to keep secret, there is no longer a limit between inside and outside, there is no longer a limit between hot and cold, between good and evil, because everything is part of the same dance, which brings you to the celebration. Thus, in every look, in every word, in every attention that you will give to the people at the water as well as to each of the humans who come to you, with the appropriate response, which is neither yours nor his, but what happens between the two, where Agape is, where the truth is. Then, each of you can celebrate with more and more freedom, in whatever circumstance of your ephemeral life, in whatever detail of your life, as well as in whatever vision of eternity, leading you to discover that you need neither words, nor visions, nor explanations, but simply to be welcomed into the truth of your heart, without putting any need, any desire, or even any suffering in it. For it is in this embracement and celebration that healing is realized in you, which does not involve anything known, which does not involve any logic or understanding. What is proposed to you by the celebration and the resonance of PHAHAME, as well as the people of the water, and each revealed to himself, is only this consolation. This consolation, which is much greater than the greatest reward, because it restores you to yourself, to freedom, where you are never thirsty again, whether it is for food, whether it is for smiling, whether it is for form. For you are beyond all this, and this is what we celebrate every minute from now on, from the moment you are placed in the temple of your eternity, through this form, as through this flesh. You are none of that, and yet you are also that. But you are no longer just that, you are the totality, you are PHAHAME, you are Reba, you are the child who dies of hunger, like the one who gestures on a barricade, like the one, by an act of blindness, who premeditates a crime, whatever it may be. There is no other possibility, and you are experiencing it, than forgiveness, absorption, understanding and direct experience of this particular state, which is nevertheless so natural and which is becoming common. You are called, wherever you are and under whatever circumstances you are, with you, with us, with each other, to celebrate and sing. Because there is no alternative but to stop wanting to understand and accept all that has made your life so joyful and painful, in order to transmute them into the fire of the moment, the igneous fire of dance and celebration, which hurries to the slightest suffering, which also hurries to the acceptance of who you are and which many of you still do not really know, but only at times. By settling into the present time, each moment is now filled with the same density of love, the same laughter, the same radiance. This radiance that does not depend on you, nor on the postures, nor on meditations, but simply on a relaxation, simply on a presence that sometimes polishes the absence, so that everything is one, because everything is one, so that the truth of the celebration becomes the permanent and perpetual Eucharist, whatever the future of this world, whatever the future of this form in which you are lodged. Nothing can belong to you, because everything is you. And you can only restore this truth, through the song of the celebration, through the silence of the word, but also in all the glances you bear, in all the thoughts you have. You are carried away more and more, literally, by the celebration of Agape, by the resonance with the people of water, as well as the resonance that is made from heart to heart, from close to close and close to far, as well as from far to far, on this earth as in every dimension. More and more of you are working in the workshops of joy, in the workshops of celebration, which celebrate every minute the laughter and spontaneity found again, which do not embarrass themselves with any dictatorship, any law of this world. Because the law of love puts an end to all justice, because love is the only justice possible in this world and what we perceive, the movements of peoples, the movements of societies, at this very moment, wherever you turn your listening, your gaze or your heart. Even if this is difficult to accept and understand by human logic, absolutely everything that can happen on earth today, in each of you, in any societal circumstance or within a group of humans, whatever it may be, has only one objective, the present moment, the truth of Agape, the truth of the celebration. So, see no obstacle, because everything is going perfectly, and even within the imperfection that it may still seem to you to live on the screen of the world or on the screen of your interior, it only passes through and it can only pass through, encouraging you to always let go of what you think you hold, what you believe you are and yet only passes through. You are beyond any passage and you will never pass, even if at this moment the reality of the opening of the passage to eternity that you are is opening up to you, as a human people in its totality. Don't judge anything. The celebration takes all judgments, the celebration takes all discrimination, all measures. Because the celebration is disproportionate in the eyes of man and it is evident in the heart of man. So, do you see yourself with your eyes or do you see yourself with your heart? Do you celebrate elsewhere than with the whole? Do you celebrate anything other than the truth of being, the truth of love, the truth of the moment? We, the people of the water, from now on every minute, every breath, we will stand in you, blowing our song, blowing our resonance, which is the same resonance. This puts an evident end, from the moment you embrace it, to all nostalgia and suffering, to all lack, to all becoming. For in the truth of Agape, in the celebration of resonance, there is no one to become, there is only the moment, there is only the certainty of the moment, which magnifies and densifies with each breath, with each glance you take, as with each creation you lead in the completion of the song of creation. For it will never end, even within what you call decreation. The song of life is instantaneous, and there is neither time nor space, there is only the truth of the moment and each of you is called to live it at this precise moment. You do not have the support of my words, but they will only declare what you have experienced between this 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. time slot, whatever the words, whatever your connection. You can no longer be out of tune with life, you can no longer be in opposition to joy, except by maintaining something in the past that has nothing to do in the present moment. Thus is the celebration, it knows no one to become like no one else in the past, every story is confused, every story is dissolved by this celebration. So, what are you waiting for, humans in default, suffering humans, humans in despair, to reach your heart of eternity and let what sings every minute, in every life, everywhere on this planet, as well as in the whole of creation that is pressing in your heavens, to attend this final moment of apotheosis of celebration, of fusion of the four living ones, and the realization that each of you, in short, is only the other. May the other be the people of the water, may the other be the most horrible of the assassins of the earth. Love transcends all this, because it has only passed and, in the end, distances you from who you are from all eternity. So PHAHAME invites you, whether at this moment or at any time when you hear my related words, to celebrate and dance, not necessarily externally, but within your heart, in order to disappear entirely to yourself in order to reappear in the truth that has never moved. Remember that this is not a practice or effort, but a total and complete relaxation of all will, desire and lack. The lack, today, is only what is intended to reveal the fullness of being and non-being, through celebration, through the people of the water, as well as through each human heart. Agape is between us. Agape is between us, present on this earth, whatever our dimension of origin or manifested within a form. Agape travels through the universes, Agape joins the creation, the first breath as the last breath. And you are registered between the first and the last, being both the first and the last, as well as beyond any recount, as beyond any count. It is the celebration that allows you to experience this in its entirety, and not some posture of your character, not some request, but a full and complete acceptance of who you really are, yet unknown to you. There can be no other barriers or obstacles than those that you have, in spite of yourself, sometimes conscious and put in front of you by attachment to any form whatsoever, by attachment to something that passes through, by attachment to any event whatsoever. You are none of the events that have taken place and are taking place at this moment, you are the perpetual event that celebrates at every moment, at every time and in every space that does not exist, the same fundamental truth, that of the song of life, that of celebration. You're invited to this, by all the circumstances of your life. You do not need to hear me and listen to me, because even the one who knocks on your door and comes to ask for something is there for the same celebration. And that the one who seems to suffer from a lack, whatever it may be, or from a suffering bearing and carried in his heart, is only in the best place to discover himself from the moment when he stops wanting to seize himself, to want to understand, to want to explain and to want to have a logic that has nothing to do with the logic of love, because it has no direction and tends in every sense as in every moment, as in every time. This is the miracle of only one thing. This is, in a way, a collective finalization of the oath and promise, announced and revealed by the source itself, lived since your previous year. A few weeks ago, we celebrated fusion and reconnection, a fusion that will intensify, leading you to celebrate evermore through laughter, as well as through silence, truth and the majesty of love, which is nothing more than what you wear, which is nothing more than what you are within this form, as well as any form, any life and any dimension. So, PHAHAME embraces you to this privileged and special moment. Because beyond my words, which are punctuated by dance and celebration, which are nothing more than the expression in human words of our song, which from now on can rejoice in touching all consciences in every world, we were the guardians of truth, beyond being the guardians of history, in order to allow history to end one day, right here, on this earth. For there is nothing more beautiful than to depend neither a dimension, nor on a form, nor on a conscience, but to be the absolute and total truth of Agape. So I can only tell you to resonate with Agape, to resonate with the light, to resonate with life. Do not let yourself be stopped by any thought, belief or limit that you would like to set by yourself, because of your education, because of your experiences, and because of history itself, whatever it may be. Thus, we celebrate the first moments of history that are nothing more than the last moments. The Alpha has joined the Omega has joined the Alpha. The four elements found the ether again through the celebration of the ether. The four living beings, unconditioned in any form, now arrive in the orb of the earth, having already touched what was left of the insulating layers, and now celebrating over the water, for the whole earth, joy. The joy before creation, as well as the joy before after any creation. There is eternity, in that which has never moved, whatever the dances, whatever the sufferings, in that which has always been there and which could not be seen or lived, because it was altered by the laws of the imprisonment of those who oppose the law of one. So yes, rejoice. Whatever show you see of our death, whatever show of the struggles between the old and the unborn on earth, do not be alarmed. For whatever the shock, whatever the suffering, there is always, 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 the deliverance. You will experience it, even if you don't believe it yet, even if you don't experience it at all. Listen. Listen to our song of resonance, listen to what the brothers and sisters living ever in them give you and life, because they have nothing to sell to you, they only have to give themselves, so that you can give yourselves to the truth that you are and not miss anything, in any appearance, and I repeat, as in all suffering. Thus, yes, the celebration of Agape's dance, the celebration of Thes and the fusion of Thes, lets you to discover and realize in this form, that every suffering has its own resolution in it, without calling for any reflection, without calling for any so-called therapeutic element. This is open to each of you and depends only on the trust you place in the truth that you are, more than in the laws of this world and more than in the logic of this world. In this celebration Agape, which is the apotheosis of revelation, the final apotheosis, all that was amputated in you, restores itself, without effort and without will. There is only one balance and you know it, love or fear, love or suffering, what you still hold dear or love. Apart from that, there is no other equation, there is no other probability, the only result, because there is only one, is celebration and Agape. The ceremony of the four living beings that will take place in this month of February will allow you, if time allows, to install in a more sensitive and perceptible way for the human collective as well as for the peoples of nature, the alchemical process where creation joins the decree, where the final moment is only the initial moment, because it has never had a beginning or end, except when you are deprived of the freedom of time and the freedom of space. And it is coming to an end at this moment, if this is your embrace, if this is your abandonment, if there is no recrimination in you, but simply an embrace that nothing limits, an embrace that nothing can restrict by your own person, by your own desire for understanding or explanation. I remind you, your understanding. You're the witness of the way, the truth and the life, you're the embodied witness of freedom. Embracing will never be an effort or a question. To embrace is simply to be there, whatever the circumstances of your life, as of any dimension, and in spite of all the weights and heaviness, even if you do not have the heart for it, to celebrate agape, to resonate agape, from one to the other, between you humans, but also within nature, be it in the vegetable kingdom, in the animal kingdom, be it with us, people of the water. What I say firmly is the other side of what had been said freely by one of us who had escaped form to deliver you. It was called Enolwaden, it transmits to you, in other words, updated by the circumstances of the moment, the same truth, the same freedom, the same lightness. This is what we must see, beyond words, because words are only the bearers of my silences and vibrations, which are addressed to your heart and not to your head. That is why we have begun, the water people, on this day that you call Saturday, between 2 and 4 p.m., the resonance of our song on a global scale. My words will only come later, because you don't need them. They will only be there to awaken this moment in you, at the moment you wish it, in the same way that Enolwaden invited you to joy and lightness, and prepared you for this celebration that is there. Whether it is by confronting an enemy, by cooking, by sleeping, by confronting yourself as well as anyone else, the celebration takes everything and shows you the uselessness of your postures, the uselessness of your habits, the uselessness of your future as well as any reference to any past. We know only one word, and that word is freedom, that word is love, that word is agape. It is our song, even within the suffering inflicted by some of your scrap metal vessels as well as by the waves emitted by these vessels. We have no use for it, because the suffering, however perceived, is immediately transformed into a song of celebration. The same is true for you, you now have the same capacity, faced with the suffering experienced, either to live it or to celebrate it. And that changes everything, and you will be countless to see it. It is not a matter of resignation, it is not simply, as Agape explained to you, something to welcome and cross, but simply to live the effect of this agape resonance, even on yourselves and even on your person. But above all, do not forget that you have nothing to ask for, because it is your due, because it is the gift of life and it does not care about your shortcomings. But for that, you must recognize yourself, and if suffering allows you to recognize yourself, then afterwards, in the next moment, you'll thank and give thanks for this incomprehensible and yet so terrible suffering. Love only knows how to give itself, love only knows how to embrace. Everything else is no longer love. Everything else is already conditioned, from the moment you stop it, from the moment you know it, from the moment you see it. To be fully present is to celebrate at every moment and to transcend the limits of this body, the limits of your age, the limits of your beliefs, or all the limits imposed by this society, which are shattered before your eyes from all over the world. So yes, PHAHAME is with you. Call PHAHAME in this pronunciation that I have dictated, because it brings you closer to Agape, because it makes you live the truth, it allows you to give you, in order to embrace in totality. For there is no alternative but to give everything, in order to receive everything. It is lived, and it is seen, and it is perceived, in every circumstance. To be free is to be nothing. Some have told you, the stars have explained it to you. Today, you must no longer be satisfied with some vibration or vision, you must no longer be satisfied with some explanation, however pleasant it may be. You must, through the magic of the moment, through the magic of resonance, learn to be spontaneous, without asking for anything, in this state of transparency where, even then, there is nothing more to embrace, or even then, there is nothing more to go through. Because you are the crossing, and because you are the embrace. This is before the guardians of the water people, before the first sun, before the first spring. This is what we must all find today, one in the other, one through the other, without making any distinction of form, dimension, or history, even the most sordid, having been lived in this world. Because it is thanks to this, which from the point of view of the person is sordid, that you discover the magnificence of the being and the magnificence of the same being, this, through this ephemeral body, through your ephemeral person. It is celebration, because it is restitution, it is celebration, because it is embracing, without person, without desire and without will. From the moment you grasp and light the principle of this agape resonance, realized between us who celebrate in our season you on your earth which is also ours and is yours, then the miracle of only one thing is accomplished, not for some of you, not even for a few million, not even for the human people of the earth, but for the whole creation. And it depends only on us, we who are within the flesh, the densest within the scale of creation, but the closest, somewhere, to the truth. Today, the truth is born, it is reborn again. To embrace, to give oneself, this is the only game that is in itself the celebration, which is in itself the gift of life and the restitution to life. You are life before being a way, you are life before being the truth. And this life knows neither death nor birth, it travels through all dimensions, it even travels this world, in complete freedom, it is previous to creation as well as to consciousness. So, I can only repeat once again, whether you are in joy, in relation to your history, in relation to your suffering, in relation to your body, or in relation to your despair, go through this, do not give any weight to what is heavy. Thus, you will discover the lightness of being and non-being, through the Agape celebration. This is the apotheosis promised and due to everyone. There is no species barrier, no race barrier, no environmental barrier, no dimensional barrier, which now holds. For the whole of creation comes to celebrate the initial moment, which is nothing other than the final moment, because they are conjugated at the same time and in the same space, not only on this earth, but in the heart of every animal, every human being, and every entity. The devas themselves, whose worthy representatives are the triangles manifesting themselves to you, come to bestow their codes of light, preparing the ultimate celebration of the whole of humanity, from the moment when the fusion of the four living beings will sing the song of freedom, resonating through every person and every creation, here or elsewhere, at the same time, in the same space, which you have named zero time. This zero time is nothing other than the celebration, which is spreading, of this agape resonance, between each heart and through each heart. You are called to live it, you do not need to meditate, you only need to be yourself. And for that, you don't have to move, you have nothing to improve, you have nothing to take away, but simply embrace and give. For in giving and embracing, there is the essential movement of the breath of life. Because in this, there is celebration and in celebration, nothing can be missing. But it's up to you to find out. I invite you not to believe my words, and that is why they were not given at the same time of my resonance, but rather to allow you to live it already in numbers, to see after that. As for the words of Enolwaden, my words today led you to the same freedom, the same truth, and that you discover that it is useless to put a counter to your gifts as to your embrace. Because the donation cannot be counted, because the embrace cannot be counted. So, please, stop counting time, whatever your time. You're the event, in its entirety, and the event is you. And you have been experiencing this, in an increasingly clear and intense way, since May of your previous year. As I said in my last speeches, both the dump, but also that place where darkness allows the light to return in its entirety, because the light eats the shadow, because the light has eaten the darkness, because the light has put an end to hope, as well as to all despair. And it is now, it is at this moment, by countless signs, by countless circumstances in your lives, by countless inner circumstances. All life, in all its aspects, whether through combat or joy, ultimately only celebrates. It is this celebration that totally destroys the notion of distance, the notion of separation, like any notion of suffering. As soon as one of you is crowned, which has been done, you're all crowned. Because the Christ matrix has regained its rights and the answer will always be yes, that there can no longer be the slightest no to life, the slightest doubt to life, and the slightest reluctance to life that you are and that we are with you, and that we celebrate together, as you celebrate at every encounter, at every look, at every street corner, as with every enemy. There is no alternative other than Agape, there is no alternative other than the truth. Everything else is just passing through. And as the celebration shows you, it has already passed and belongs to history, a history that no longer has any reason to be, once the way, the truth and the life manifest themselves within you as outside you, and, above all, without needing your history, your person, or your form. Then, PHAHAME will resound to me from now on at this hour, so that each of you may receive the fragrance and scent, those who animate the Spirit of truth. So rejoice, announce the good news, not by words, but above all, by your presence in the heart of giving and embracing, by your continuity of giving and embracing. For love never stops, gift and acceptance never stop. Whether it is in silence, whether it is suffering, whether it is exuberant, you cannot be deceived by what you are living. You know it from the moment you live it, you can only doubt it or reject it until you live it. It is up to you alone, because the song of freedom is for everyone, it knows no barriers, no distance, no time. Agape. PHAHAME. PHAHAME. Agape. Beloved of human love, there is no longer any distance between the hearts of cetaceans and the hearts of humans. This means that there could no longer be what many of you have experienced in recent decades, in the nostalgia of our meeting, because our meeting is no longer only inscribed in certain circumstances or in certain movements, as well as yours, but is accessible at every moment by the way of the ether, which is nothing other than the fully operative Christic matrix, having put an end to the binary matrix. Only your doubts, only your reluctance, only your desire to understand and grasp yourself, prevent you from living it. If you respect this notion of giving and embracing everything that is happening in you and outside you, then nothing can be a struggle anymore. Whatever the misunderstandings, it will make you discover what many elders and stars have told you for many years, that everything is in its right place and that there is no better place than the one where you are, and especially if you do not love it, and especially if you reject it. Because by rejecting the place of your ephemeral, you close the door to the gift, you close the door to the embrace. You can vibrate all the crowns you want, you can feel all the energies and see all the presences of the earth, as long as you have not given yourself and as long as you have not embraced yourself, you cannot be free. In this way, I am responding in anticipation to many brothers and sisters who are overloaded with vibrations, overloaded with visions, and yet who do not experience the continuity of joy, quite simply because they are not there. They forgot that beyond the interfacing of the body of eternity, there was a need to give oneself entirely, as well as to embrace entirely. You cannot get out of this equation, and I invite all of you who are still involved in suffering or in stories, whether spiritual or otherwise, to ask yourselves really and concretely this time, what it means to give, what it means to embrace, what it means to give yourself, what it means to embrace yourself. As long as you see the slightest difference, then, you are not in the right posture, you are not in surrender to the light, but you still value your life. There is no judgment, because this equation is perfect, it has no other way of solving it, nor any other possible calculation. Gift equals embrace, embrace equals freedom equals agape. Agape is the total gift of what you believe you value, even in the course of time. Agape puts an end to space as well as to dimensions, and this is lived through this body, and it is promised to everyone. But if you do not live it yet, then I tell you neither patience nor hope, but simply, have you given yourself, have you embraced yourself, without break and without limit, have you given everything, have you accepted everything? There is no other question that still makes sense. Everything else is solved in agape. Then PHAHAME blesses me in this moment and in the hour that follows, despite my silence. And you will find that again the moment you listen and hear my words, with the same intensity. Because my singing does not need words, because my singing does not need any other word than the evidence of the moment, and which comes spontaneously from each of our breaths. Beyond the call and communication, our songs are above all resonant. May it be the same with your looks, your words, your intentions, your gestures, in the face of any circumstance of your body as well as your life. At that moment, first of all, you give yourself, you embrace yourself. And from that moment on, agape, resonance, is there. It is by living it for even a minute that you will never be able to forget it, and that it will take place independently of you, independently of any meditation. This is also what it means to live life and no longer live your life or simply human life with its assets and setbacks. It is to live the truth, which is not conditioned, nor by a form. You are free from all eternity. Simply, you had forgotten it, and we had no way of making this song resonate in your hearts, except, of course, for some of you who, in these past decades, have had a chance to celebrate with us, but, as I said, leaving a form of nostalgia and emptiness. This is no longer possible today. Because from the moment you embrace yourself through the restored ether, the primordial ether, then the four Orients are present in you. You're at the center, you're the way, you're the truth, and you're the life. You can declare it, and each of your actions will be marked by the same truth. Each of your words, even if they escape from you without any control, will only be witnesses to the truth. This is the grace that many stars have described to you, because of their exceptional experience. Today, each of you is in the same exceptional place. There is no fault, no responsibility, no guilt. There's not the other one, there's only you. By being only you, you give yourself and embrace yourself. This game of gift and embrace is in fact the ultimate dance that accompanies silence and resonance. Agape, now in silence. PHAHAME has kept silent for me his words, relayed by my singing in this human voice, and PHAHAME only asks me one thing. It is to go through each of you without being stopped, being totally embraced. Because you are freedom, because you are life, and because you are love. PHAHAME. 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 Through Jean-Luc Ayoun. The Transformations. French transcript. Agape team. English translation. LMF.